It's our pleasure to welcome our next speakers, Moritz Homann and Aram Kaven-Moser. As a Managing Director Corporate Compliance at EQS Group, Moritz oversees the strategic development of digital workflow solutions tailored to meet the needs of compliance officers around the world. Moritz specializes in capital market compliance and the practical implementation of regulations. Aram Kaven-Moser is Managing Director Corporate Compliance at EQS Group and founder of Rulebook, a dialogue platform for corporate behavior and compliance. He has many years of management and consulting experience in governance, risk and compliance, including setting up compliance systems for Daimler and Deutsche Telekom. They believe that compliance managers need to focus on their most important audience. Through which technologies can they reach employees in the best way? How can they leave a lasting impression so that awareness of compliance and ethics is truly raised? The answer to these questions decides the effectiveness of every compliance program.
Hello everybody, my name is Moritz, this is my colleague Aram, and we're very happy to tell you more about what you can learn from your kids' toys to improve your compliance and ethics program. And for this purpose, I specifically brought this. Now, if you have little kids yourself or anywhere in your family, then you perfectly well know what this is. If you don't, I will quickly explain. This is the Tony box. It's being manufactured by a German company called Boxin. And what this is it's basically a music player for little kids. And the way that this works is you have the box, which is the music player, so it has a speaker and everything. And then you have these little figures, which you can buy separately. And as soon as you put the figure onto the box, music starts playing, like this. Now, why on earth am I showing you this, and what does this have to do with your compliance and ethics program? Well, this is a very simple process, but there is a ton of technology involved in the background to make this work. So in this little figure, there's a so-called near-field communication chip implemented, NFC chip. There's another NFC chip in this box. The box is actually connected to the internet because there's a Wi-Fi chip also in there. And what happens when I put this figure onto the box is that the two NFC chips recognize each other. The box accesses the cloud, downloads the audio file onto the box and starts playing the music. Now, my kid is 1 year old, or 1 year and 4 months actually, so he has no idea about any of this. He doesn't know what an NFC chip is, he doesn't know what Wi-Fi is, he doesn't know what the cloud is or the internet is for that matter. All he knows is if he puts this onto the box, his favorite music starts playing. So what he has is a great user experience, while the technology is completely secondary to that. The technology basically disappears for him. All it does is enable the user experience. And this is actually a key point that we're trying to make today. And Aram, if I may hand over the box to you, please be careful with it because it's kind of important in our home. Thank you.
Let me try again.
Still works. So this is a key point we're trying to make today. It's not about using the latest technology. So when you look at your compliance and ethics program, it's not about using the blockchain or using artificial intelligence or doing big data analysis. It's about the user experience. And if you can use technology to make the user experience better, then you should do that. But technology should always only be the enabling party or enabling element for the user experience. And in the case of your compliance and ethics program, the ultimate user, of course, is the employee. So if you can use technology to make it more secure for the employee, to make it more reliable for the employee, more approachable, easier to use for the employee, then you should do that. But it should not be about the technology in the first place. Now let's look at some more recent use cases of some of the latest technology. And this is actually just a few days old. So just a few days ago, Google has presented this update to the search engine that they're planning. And you probably know that already for quite some time you are able to do a reverse image search on Google. So what you can do is you can take a picture, or you can take any picture from your smartphone or your laptop, upload it to Google, and then Google will try to find similar images like the one you uploaded. So for example, you could take a picture of a tree, have no idea what type of tree that is, upload it to Google. Google will find similar images of similar trees, and by that you can figure out that this is probably a birch tree that you're looking at. Now, what you can do in the future, and what you can see in the background playing, is in the future you can upload an image and ask a question about that image to Google. So you could take this picture of the shirt with the nice floral pattern on it, if you're into that, and then you can ask Google to find some socks that match the shirt, because the socks have the same pattern on it than the shirt has. Now again, this is a very simple use case, it's a very simple process, but the amount of technology involved in the background is incredible. There's a ton of artificial intelligence involved, because Google needs to understand what is on the picture that you've uploaded. Google needs to understand the question that you're asking, so they need to understand that you're asking about socks now. And then they need to browse all the bazillion images that they have indexed to find socks with this particular pattern on it. And all of this happens within the split of a second. So very nice use case, but also kind of shows the state of AI that we're currently in and what kind of use cases we can already enable with artificial intelligence. So again, what does this mean for ethics and compliance? Will I, in the future, be able, for example, if I'm planning to work with a new business partner, will I be able to take a picture of that business partner? So let's assume I want to work with Aram here. Aram is going to be my potential new business partner, but I don't know if I can trust Aram really. So I'm going to take a picture of Aram, upload that to Google, and then ask Google, hey Google, do you think I can trust this guy? And then Google will tell me, well, I don't know, he looks kind of shady to me, so maybe better not. Will that happen anytime soon? Probably not. Could it happen with the state of technology that we're currently in and the advancement that we're seeing? Yes, it might. Would it be a good idea? We don't know. But we think it's certainly important to understand what is kind of possible already today and where can we take it and what implications does this have for the compliance and ethics program. And especially around artificial intelligence, there's a lot of misconceptions and also a lot of confusion often. So many people, when they're talking about artificial intelligence, oftentimes they mean something else. That's why I always find it very helpful to take a look at this chart, which kind of shows that artificial intelligence is kind of the pinnacle technology-wise and comes with a lot of underlying or preparing technologies. And oftentimes when people talk about artificial intelligence, what they mean is actually the second element on this chart, being robotic process automation. And let me give you an example for robotic process automation. This is a software solution of ours. It's the EQS Approval Manager. And what this does is it allows you to create forms, request forms for employees that employees can fill out and send to the supervisor or to the compliance team to get approval for something that is compliance related. So a very common use case for this is gifts and invitations. Every major company normally has a policy on gifts and hospitality, what's allowed, what is not allowed, different monetary thresholds in different regions or even different countries, specific rules that you cannot give anything to a government official, things like that. And normally it's pretty hard to navigate for employees. It's pretty hard to understand what is allowed now, what's not allowed. And what Approval Manager allows you to do is you can, by asking just 3 or 4 questions, the employee can figure out, is it probably okay to give this gift or receive this gift from the business partner, or do I need approval for it, or is it definitely not okay from a compliance and ethics perspective? Also, this is happening within split seconds, and it's mapping against whatever many rules there might be in the organization. So it's very smart, and it's a great user experience, but it's not artificial intelligence. It's robotic process automation. Because all these rules are basically human-made. The compliance officer sat down, created all these rules, defined the rules, and all we do in the software is we operationalize them, and we make them very easy to approach and very easy to navigate for employees. But it's not artificial intelligence. It would be artificial intelligence if the software would tell you one day, hey Moritz, I've done some research, and I think your monetary threshold in Kazakhstan is way too high. Maybe you should lower that a bit because I found these articles indicating that the monetary threshold should be way lower. Now that would be artificial intelligence. And of course also something like this is possible in the future. but we see very little usage of actual artificial intelligence today in compliance and ethics programs. So what happens a lot already is robotic process automation, which is kind of on the way to artificial intelligence and is certainly a good preparation, but actual AI is not happening a lot right now. In this context, often we're asked if the technology advances, and it advances every day basically, what does this ultimately mean for the compliance and ethics function? Will we come to a point where the robot takes over the compliance and ethics function? And you have probably also heard this answer a couple of times already. We believe that absolutely this will not be the case. So the robot will not take over the compliance and ethics function because, as it was also stated a couple of times today already, navigating ethics especially is a very human thing. And already for humans, it's quite complicated to navigate. So a robot operating by fixed rules has a very hard time to make decisions on ethical dilemmas, for example. But we think that it's absolutely important, and that is the second point on here, that compliance and ethics managers understand the implications of today's technology and understand what is already possible and where could it go in the future. And let me give you one last example on this, where it might go. You maybe have read that Apple is apparently working on a pair of smart glasses. I mean, you never really know what Apple is actually working on until they announce it or even publish it. But apparently Apple is working on a couple of smart glasses. And this device could have extreme power, I think. If you wear a pair of smart glasses, then these glasses are basically able to see what you see and also understand and get the context. They would be able to read what you read, so they understand the text. They could even translate it. They would be hearing what you hear and also understand, like in words, what is being spoken, even in foreign languages. And the smart glasses would probably be connected to the internet, so they would have a lot more knowledge than you. So could it be possible that in the future you're wearing your smart glasses and you get some kind of alert that you might be in a situation that could be unethical or could even be illegal, and you might get a hint about that? Could theoretically be possible. Would it be a good idea? We don't know. Are we still very far away from it? Probably we are. But we think it's very important to understand all these different technologies, where they might take us, and what implications this has for the compliance and ethics function. And now I'm very curious to see where Aram takes us with the artificial intelligence topic. Thanks. Handing over.
Thank you so much, Moritz. I'm very excited to stay here and to bring a little bit of our thoughts, our experience to you. Actually, we met exactly 1 year ago, before the first ECEC in Munich, and now we are together in one boat developing the next level of compliance solutions. And I'm so proud to be part of this team now. And we are experiencing right now what trust means, what it means to bring knowledge together and bring it forward in this field of ethics and compliance. And so we are experiencing this on our own. Let me look at one typical, let's call it dilemma. And when we are talking to our kids, at least we are in a little bit different situation. My kids are leaving home right now. Your kid was born just 1 year ago. So we are handling different toolboxes right now with our children. And when I say we, I talk from me and my wife. And so now there is so much out there for children. Of course, in the first years, they are trying to experience music. They are trying to experience how to stand up, how to walk. So they are not afraid of going out, of making experience, making also bad experiences. And we are looking at organizations right now. The problem is that there is so much going on outside. We have agile working concepts. We have new forms of collaboration with externals. We have new technologies. We have new markets. And what we experience also in interaction with our customers is that sometimes loosening or opening the field is also giving a little bit of fear to the organization and also to the participants of an organization. And how can we overcome this, let's call it dilemma, loosening, so to say, the organization, giving more responsibility in the organization, helping the organization to develop in the right way, to develop great products, but sticking to somehow a framework of ethical behavior and, of course, also of rules. I think we have heard a lot of things about the difference between ethics and compliance. And we've heard also that it belongs together somehow. And so let's look what can it mean and how can we explain it also to our children. Actually, it starts very early, as we have seen with your toolbox. We need somehow computers. So you said it's uploaded to the cloud. I believe, or I think, you can have different musical experiences with the children. So you are not you have not to stick to one song. So there are different songs and they can experience more. So you need computers who are the basis actually of artificial intelligence. Children don't know exactly that it's a computer, but nowadays I think we started with the first smartphones with our children about the age of 12 or 13. I think it starts today even earlier. So they are somehow understanding that there is something like a computer. On the other hand, there is AI. I think AI is basically in our day-to-day experience search. Search is the most used type of artificial intelligence I experience. So every kid is very early using search technology. And search technology is something we can also, as compliance officers and we as technology and solution provider, can bring to the compliance function to make sure that the right information and transparency is in place at a special point of decision. So for all of this, you need a kind of AI system. So the things have to be interconnected. And of course, this has to be transported somehow to the employees. So at the end of the day, this can all help bringing more transparency, bringing more information to the employees to make sure that they can take good decisions. But, and this is very important, we cannot really disconnect from what are the experiences of the employee in a special situation, what surroundings, what are the surrounding conditions for a business decision. And this responsibility to take that into the decision and making that available is still belonging to the individual in the special situation, and artificial intelligence can only help to make this even better. So when I talk to my children, I have always tried to give them examples that when they find something with search, they have to make sure that they look, okay, how did I search? What are the potential sources which I can rely on? So you need your own intelligence to make sure that you are not only relying on these technical aspects. And this is something I tried always to teach my children. And I think they understand it, or they have understood it. I hope that they will stick to it. So, talking about intelligence, and this is, in my opinion, very interesting, we are talking about this bias. We have heard from Dr. Klaus Moosmeier also that it's all about biases. So biases means we have a certain kind of experience that comes with our lives. That means it might be that we made bad experience with external business partners in a special situation. For example, you have worked with a consultant, you have had the wrong contract, they were cheating you in some way, and you decide for yourself, I will never work with with consultants again because I made a bad experience. So this is experience you bring, your personal experience you bring in. This personal experience might be wrong or might be some kind in a bias or brings you into a bias situation and you don't really recognize it. So it doesn't mean necessarily that when other people in your organization are doing things and they are used to do it, then that's the right thing, or that it's legal, or that it's ethical. So you have to make up your mind, and you need to have decision support to do so, and you have to also be so brave to speak up in special situations and make sure that you perhaps also speak up and say, okay, I think everybody is doing here something, but I think it is wrong, because I believe it's not in frame with our rule set, and it's not also not in line with my own ethical beliefs and my own responsibility, which I bring into my daily work. So this is the left side personal experience you see on the slide, and the right hand side, and there is the most focus in our technology development, that we are trying to support this decision process in a very good way. So the underlying things like sensoric, like things you have on an emotional basis, this is something that comes in and which is not reflected by technology, which can not be interpreted in the right way. And this is so much important to have an organization which is self-responsible and which also reflect those things and bring it on the table. So we think stay brave, use technology, bring it to your employees as a compliance and ethics officer, and make it available, and see that responsibility lies with the employees who are taking the day-to-day decisions. I brought a little bit of statistics with you, so asked for who is really responsible for integrity within your organization. And in my opinion, not surprisingly, people are answering that it's all with management and that it's all within the organization. So they take the responsibility, and the compliance function is very, very back in this situation. So they can, of course, encourage people to take responsibility and act with integrity. They can implement systems, they can implement programs, but the responsibility lies with the organization and with the first line of defense, how sometimes we call it. So this first line, the management and the organization, they have to take their decisions, they have to take their responsibility, and you as a compliance and ethics officer should really push this forward and enable the organization to act with integrity and to do the right thing. So we talked about this line thing, so bringing it out, letting it go, bringing new working concept into introducing this into your organization. And this is something we are, as compliance and ethics specialists, are experiencing each day. So there are new team structures. They are self-organized. We call it knowledge workers. Knowledge workers are relying on technology. They are working at different places. They have a kind of passion about what they are doing, and they don't want to be evil, or they don't want to not act with integrity and not in line of the rules, but they are struggling somehow. On the one hand, there is a more loosened system of organization. They should take more responsibility, but how can they then stick to the rules and handle within the frame? And this is something we are all experiencing, and we have to really avoid to destroy this new kind of work relationships and new kind of work, day-to-day work experience which employees have, and therefore compliance has to push or has to communicate, in our opinion, in a different way. So when you are talking about, and we had this experience or this example more or less also this morning, when you are beating your children always and tell them this is not allowed, that is not allowed, and you should not do this and that, somehow they will not try to get new experiences. They get afraid, they get reluctant somehow. So we are trying also with technology, bringing the information more in a more passionate way. So telling people why are we doing it, and bringing also hard rules with this kind of communication. You can say, okay, you can do it, but please consider this and that. But you do not have to say, okay, you mustn't do it, because then you avoid any risk. So taking this kind of new communication together with this new trusted relationships and agile working concept, I think this is a big chance to bring compliance and ethics into the next level. And we can, as technology and solution provider, only encourage you to take also as a compliance function this new path, and don't rely on the concepts of the past. Bring it forward, be also brave as a compliance function, and push this kind of communication into your organization and make them more self-confident and more flexible. So doing that, we are always talking about how can you do that? What are the things you have to consider? Can we bring it to really the organization, or can we not bring it to the organization? And how can we use artificial intelligence to enable that? And as I said before, the first thing our children are interacting with technology is they are going to Google, they are searching for something, they're going to Netflix, they are searching for something, they are going to learning portals within the educational context. They are searching for what is important for me, and how can I come on the best way to my own target, which I have also as a child. So what does it mean? It means we have a lot of unstructured information within the company. There are so many laws, there are so many rules, there are so many frameworks. And I think the organization has to focus on really the purpose of the organization. And the purpose of the organization is not sticking to rules. The purpose of the organization is to stay successful, to bring business ideas which are useful to the society, which makes the business successful into the field and bring it forward. And therefore, what you see in the background is somehow the new form of communication. You put in the information, and artificial intelligence can help you guiding through the jungle of rules and regulations, connect all the different information points in the company together and bring it to the first line, to the one who is actually taking the decision. And in the case there is support needed, of course, this technology can also connect you to a workflow, to an approval workflow, to support helplines, and so on and so forth. So how does it work in practice? On the one hand, we call it pull communication. So your employee has a question, he can just start the chat dialogue, and he is getting support here directly and very transparent and legally reliable on the one hand. So there is a question and he wants to get an answer. The other thing, and we call it business process integration, that means, okay, perhaps here you see you are in a workflow of travel and expense, and our technology is pushing an information into the workflow which gives, in this case here, in this example, conflict of interest guideline, connecting, so to say, here in this case, a business trip with an personal vacation, for example, or recreation activities. So is it possible or not? So how would this employee otherwise would get this information or think of it? Never. because he's not thinking of compliance, and he has not to think about conflict of interest and compliance because he is just getting the information in the spot in time he is dealing with this topic. And then he can also be connected to the workflow and get approval from his supervisor or from compliance. And this is the new form. So we call it push communication on the one hand, which you see here, but in the context of the decision, not when the decision is over. And the other thing is pull communication, using the organization who has questions, not connecting them with any help desks, of course, when they need it, but in the first moment, giving them the right decision support and answering the question on a legally reliable way he has. So the last thing, and we were talking, Moritz had said, okay, there is all this thing, business process automation, and then we have AI. We showed somehow how process automation and AI in a search context and with a lot of rules and data can be interconnected. And now we are talking about the future. And I think, Moritz, this is a little bit spontaneous now, but we are building now the compliance cockpit. And this topic is not so much covered yet by us. We have good ideas, but I think this is the future, bringing workflow, bringing, so to say, all this information we have on rules and ethics to one bearing point where the compliance officer can take a decision and can use data of the company.
Absolutely, yeah. And the more data we gather through workflows, through search, the more we can make it intelligent, the more we can learn from that data. So the more we gather there, the more learnings we can make and improve the compliance and ethics program on an ongoing basis. And that's our mission, basically.
This is the mission, and now we are going back to you as compliance officers. Sometimes we experience when we are talking about this that compliance officer says, I don't know what you experience. Oh, please don't give me all that data. I don't want to have more information and more risks in place. I cannot handle it. So we have to make sure give the information, but also give support how to handle this and what kind of interpretation can I take from all this data and make it then available for the compliance program for the things that are necessary to do. So this is the next level for us, I think, and I'm very curious about the process with the team together and also with you guys to make sure that we are developing the right technology together.
Aram, Moritz, thank you so much for your fun presentation. All the best.
Thank you.